Okay, next I'd like to welcome Sheila Collecott, who's going to speak on collaboration and working together to G2Z. Sheila's the Executive Officer for Animal Focus for RSPCA Queensland, and she joined the organisation in 2001 and oversees all animal-related areas including vet services, shelter operations, customer service, foster and outreach, call centre, inspectorate, and animal training and behaviour. She also oversees Shelter Buddy software, which has allowed her to work with many of the top shelters in the USA and Canada. She's seen firsthand what has and has not worked. She's a strong advocate of building community coalitions and standardised reporting to reduce the number of animals coming into the shelters and then being euthanised. Welcome, Sheila.
Good afternoon, and thank you everybody. I know it's late in the afternoon, and some of the things I'm going to talk about, several of the presenters have already touched on, but I guess from a certain point of view, for us to get to where we are today, we had to admit that we were doing something wrong in the beginning. So when I first started with the RSPCA back in 2001 as an employee, I actually started in 1999 as a volunteer. And I often laugh and say, it's amazing what our kids get us into. But like Sharon, Mark, and Dr. Miller before me, I joined an organization who probably felt that we were the only solution. Animals came in, just like with Sharon and with Dr. Miller. Euthanasia could be just around the corner in a matter of maybe 5 to 10 meters. I can remember walking in, and there are a few things that I bet everybody in this room, especially who's worked in animal control or who has worked in a humane society or welfare charity, there are those little things that kind of burn that you've seen or that you've experienced, and those are the things that make us keep wanting to go today. Back when I started, and you'll see there, the word euthanasia is used in almost every sentence, if not every in every sentence. We euthanized for space. And I can remember animals being put to sleep the next day so that they made room for the animals for the next day. Disease, URI, ringworm, kennel cough, you name it, the disease, we were looking for perfect animals. Behavior issues. We all know that a shelter is not the best place for a cat or for a dog, or for any animal for that matter. And we put together really critical lists, and a lot of animals lost their lives based on behavior. Population control. We have desexing campaigns and desexing projects for population control, but all of us have talked about the fact that euthanasia was a means of population control back 10 to 15, 20 years ago. One of the things that shelters have always done, and especially up probably until about 10 years ago in the US, 12 years, 15 years ago, a little bit more recent here in Australia, we were very, very reactive. And I, for one, will openly admit that I can remember saying to the guys, I'm not a limited intake shelter. I'm not going to control my intake. I'm an open admission shelter. Yeah, well, that didn't last very long, because I now will tell my guys, and it took a long time to get my vets on board, to get my intake staff on board, because again, they thought they were the best solution. We were the best place for those animals. And I couldn't understand how the best place was having a litter of kittens dropped off at the front counter to be taken through the door and 2 meters behind that counter, be put to sleep within 5 minutes of arriving at the shelter. We were not the best place. We lacked control over the animals coming into our shelter. We lacked control over everything we did. We were time poor because we had too many animals in our care. Now, when I say lack strategic plans, and I think my CEO is sitting over there, when I started with the organization, we did have a 5-year strategic plan. And that was a very big picture strategic plan. and we met the deadline within 3 years. However, one of the things that did happen, because our organization grew quite drastically in those 5 years, and one of the things that we did have were approximately 11 silos that came into play. And so every one of us had our own idea of what our mission was about, where our focus should be. So during that time, our strategic plans became a little bit mixed up, a little bit personal, and really not what the whole organization was about. And above all, we were totally working independently of any group in the rest of the community, because we were the answer to everything. However, now we've become a lot more proactive. And as many of you would know, prevention is the best cure. So we are now in control of a lot of the things we do. My vets will come to me and say, how many animals do we have coming in this week? Can we talk to the owners? Can we ask them to hold off to next week? Because we know what we've received in. We know what our disease loads is in the shelter. Can we talk to them? And the intake staff, if I would have said that 7 years ago, would have just looked at me and said, absolutely no way. We have programs focused now on saving animals. I'm not sure whether my operations manager's in here or not. I can blame him for my first taste of Red Bull. We drove 16 hours to Townsville, slept 5 hours, and turned around and drove 21 hours back to save 30 cats. Now, you would have thought we learned our lesson, but we did it 4 more times. And then he started doing it with other people. But that was our commitment that we made to our staff in Townsville, that they had committed to us that they would save lives, and they had done their part, and now it was up to us. We are now aligned with our mission and what we do, and our vision and our strategic plan is very much about saving lives. We were working now with other organizations. So earlier this year with Sippy Creek, they had a deaf dog that they'd had in the shelter for quite some time. Baloo was not doing very well, so Baloo came to live with us in hopes that we could adopt Baloo out. Now they are keen to take animals from us, which is great. 2 shelters working together. We do not have a contract here in Brisbane. That contract is held by Lost Dogs Home. We just don't want, we laugh because our first really bad case of kennel cough came because the 2 CEOs decided we could share animals. We're brand new in our shelter, and we laugh at it because all the dogs they transferred in that day stayed in our shelter for 10 to 14 days because they got off the truck with kennel cough. However, what we wanted to do was spot on. We wanted to share resources because they were full. Same thing goes when we worked with Logan in trying to share animals with them because they had empty adoption spaces. But above all, we want to work with the community. We want programs out there that we can help people keep animals in their homes, that we can help reunite animals who come into shelters, work with animal control so that the animals never even come into the shelter. So again, let's prevent the animals from coming in. So when you look at the definition of collaboration, what is collaboration? It's working together to do a task. It's a recursive process where 2 or more people or organizations work together to realize shared goals. And it's more than just an intersection of common goals, but a deep collective determination to reach an identical objective, which is probably why many of us, if not all of us, are sitting in this room today. At the G2Z conference this year, if you look around, or if you've looked around over the last few days, we have welfare and shelter groups both from Australia and internationally. We have government and animal management here. We have rescue groups. We have foster groups. We have representatives from pet shops or from the pet industry. I know earlier on there was a groomer or a trainer. We've got board members from various societies. We've got advocates that aren't involved in day-to-day sheltering. We've got private vets. And we've also got the university and vet school here. It takes all of us and everybody on that list in a community and in a coalition to make it work. So, community coalition. It takes all of us working together to keep animals out of shelters. So today you heard things like with rescue groups. So I do know that when I've called Nikki, who's my rescue coordinator, and said, look, we've got 4 miniature ponies. I don't have stables. I don't have anywhere to put them in the new shelter. Those animals never hit my shelter. They went straight to rescue, and that's what we're here for. There are a lot of times that we'll have an animal at intake. We know the best place for that animal is not at the shelter. It may be a specific breed, and the girls will call Nikki to say, can you call rescue? Can you see if rescue will take this animal? So again, it's not spending time in the shelter because we know that the time in the shelter is not going to be good for the animal. In working with Community Coalition, it takes transparency. I can remember about 7 years ago, I had a guy phone up and we had put a litter of kittens that he brought in to sleep. And he was absolutely furious. And so I talked to my chief vet and I talked to Mark, my CEO, and he said, well, be honest with him. So I went and did the stats, and we'd taken in about 140 kittens that week. We had adopted out 25. We had asked him, could he hold on to them? They were 5 weeks old. And I had over 150 kittens between 6 to 8 weeks out in foster. When I explained that to him, he apologized for the call and asked how he could help. In working with community coalitions, and it was mentioned earlier, you must have trust. If I'm going to walk into a meeting and I'm going to get hammered for something I'm doing when I'm trying to do the right thing, chances are that meeting's not going to go well. If I walk into a meeting and hammer a rescue group or somebody who's trying to do the right thing, then they're not going to feel comfortable in talking, they're not going to feel open, and so are we going to get out of it what we need? And the answer is no. It may mean checking our egos at the door and leaving the past behind. All of us have baggage, and we need to leave it behind in order for these community coalitions to work. You've heard this earlier today. We all need to understand what each organization can give. I don't expect the rescue groups necessarily to be able to do the dentals or something like that from time to time. So now, back 3 years ago, when we sent animals to rescue, you got an animal. It may have been desexed, it may not have been desexed. Nowadays, they're desexed. Chances are they've had a dental. They may have had x-rays if they've got bone issues or something like that, especially if we bring them through our wake call facility. Because we know it's something, if you're taking an animal on for us, we want to help you however we can. Because you're taking an animal that's not going to do well in our shelter. Maybe we don't have the foster homes to care for the animal. So it's our part of trying to give back to you. Understanding and commitment of why we're at the table. And again, this was mentioned earlier. Why am I at the table? Why are you at the table? Why are we all at the table? What can we bring to the table? And we can't sit there as 6 silos and say, well, this is why I'm here. We all have to be there for that one common goal. One of the dreams of our group was to have a conference, because if anybody had ever visited our Fairfield shelter, it was not a very nice place. And our meeting room was a shed down the back, if you were lucky. Normally we had to rent a place off-site, even if we wanted to have a large meeting of staff of over about 25 people. So part of our vision for the Animal Care Campus was to be a place where not only members of the public could come and learn, but we could also be a facility that we could help other members of the industry, whether it's rescue, whether it's animal control, university, TAFE, whoever, help them to learn. The Animals in Focus conference was something that we wanted to do. Everybody here is committed to getting to zero. However, if you look around, you'll find that there are still some groups that's not here. And some of those people came to the Animals in Focus conference. So if we can get those people little by little working in to understand what we're trying to do, then it's a win-win situation. This year, I believe it was in May, Mark, that we had the rescue meeting. I was actually overseas during this time. And one of the things that we really wanted to do, we work with rescue groups quite closely. But one of the things we wanted to do is actually open up to some of the groups and some of the advocates and say, this is what we are, this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is where we're going. We wanted to better understand the rescue groups and their needs. We also wanted to really understand their concerns to us, about us, to see if we could put those concerns to rest. I believe in talking to people, and I know I've had meetings subsequent to that where I've actually opened up Shelter Buddy, gone through euthanasia statistics, everything with groups. I believe we walked away with a greater trust in each other and hopefully some common goals for the future. Rescue groups, adoption partners, whatever you want to call it, proactively we need to work together with rescue groups, understanding what they can do and how both can help each other. Nikki's here with me today, and she's our Rescue and Rehoming Network Coordinator. She's had that position for about 2 years, so we have one person dedicated in trying to work to get animals out to rescue and working with the rescue groups. This year we partnered with rescue groups in Queensland, Victoria, and New South Wales to rehome 824 animals just via the rescue groups. And that had gone up from approximately 500 and some odd the year before. And my team now are really believing in some of the rescue groups. My vets come to me and say, oh, do you think so-and-so will take this dog? Because they've seen the great work that the rescue groups have done, and they're very much on board. So what does 2013-2014 hold for the RSPCA? And maybe after looking at this, you might want to think, and hey, maybe you are interested in working with us a little bit more. So we want to continue our partnership with Pet Barn. We currently have 10 outreach locations with Pet Barn, with another 3 coming on board before November. We want to continue our partnership with the University of Queensland, with our vet students, to ensure that, again, in that 4 to 5 years' time, that we've got vet students that know what we're all about and can be some of the best advocates for us. We're looking at a new program to aid with pet retention due to behavior issues, which is one of the most common reasons animals are surrendered to shelters. We also want to continue the research that we're doing with a new initiative to help people keep pets who are renting properties. Between behavior and landlord won't allow, those are the 2 most common reasons animals are surrendered to our shelters. We also want to continue our partnership with the prison foster program. We've got cats that have been out at the ladies' prison and women's prison now for over 2 years. And some of our best work with dogs has been done with the guys at the Remand Center. We want to continue with our targeted desexing programs with local councils, the AVA, and non-AVA vets. As mentioned before, driving to Townsville. We want to continue with our transfer programs, and we're meeting with another person who's very keen to help us. He charters flights, and he flies mine workers out to various parts of Australia or to Queensland. He said, I fly out full, come back empty. So again, that allows us to work with regional councils to bring animals back. Through Shelter Buddy, we want to continue to provide technology to save lives. So today we've got several speakers, or this week, from ASPCA, which we help provide information for them, or for their clients, to provide to them to better understand whether it's the Catalyst program that operates in the US with cats, or the National Federation in the US. We supply statistics, or we provide the queries for their clients to give them statistics to better understand where we're doing right, where we're doing good, and where we're doing bad. And also through our partnership with Home Safe ID, provide ways to reunite pets and their owners. And mentioned earlier, the first one ever, to my knowledge, in Australia. It's been a dream of mine for about 2 years, and that's to hold an adoption event where we have rescue groups and shelters alike, so that we can really promote to the public the power of the animals that come from shelters, raise the awareness of how excellent shelter pets are, or rescue animals, And so this year, in less than 10 days' time, we have about 30 animal welfare and rescue groups at the RNA Showgrounds for our big adopt out. Thank you.